In the winter of his life, an emperor sat in a freezing tent on the Roman frontier. His armies were stretched thin, a disastrous air was waiting in the wings, and a plague was actively tearing through his cities. The notes he committed to paper by candlelight were not military strategies or memos of state. They were quiet, private reminders. Focus on what is yours to control. Do your duty. Be fair. Useful. That emperor was Marcus Aurelius. His private journal, Meditations, has survived for 2,000 years to become a grounding tool for modern leaders trying to keep their feet under them when the world moves too fast. Modern executives face a similar flood of chaos, market shifts, PR crises, and the relentless noise of digital communication. There is a common myth that leadership requires being small s stoic, becoming cold, emotionless, and attempting to hyper-control every outcome. The original philosophy is actually a mental operating system for high-stakes environments. It is practiced by investors like Warren Buffett and founders who need a disciplined way to stay grounded in the middle of chaos. Stoicism offers a working theory of how to act well when conditions are bad. It provides the practical framework required to make principled decisions when most of the situation is outside your control. The system begins with a binary rule from a former slave named Epictetus. He divided the world strictly into two categories: things that are up to us and things that are not. The not up to us category includes almost everything: markets, the weather, and other people's opinions. What remains up to us is a tiny, powerful set of variables: our effort, our intentions, and our responses. When currency fluctuations hurt sales at Brooks Running, the CEO turned to Buffett for advice. Buffett told him to ignore the markets he couldn't influence and focus entirely on making the product better, the one thing he actually owned. This decision flowchart illustrates the logic. For situations where you have partial control, Stoics use the reserve clause. You commit fully to the effort, but you mentally detach from the final outcome. On the yes pathway, your energy is concentrated. If a problem is in your control, the system demands that you act decisively and get to work. The no pathway requires a different kind of discipline. You deliberately release the anxiety and redirect your attention back to what you can actually shape. Applying this filter prevents leaders from pouring energy into sinkholes. By refusing to solve for things they cannot solve, they make decisions faster and with much higher clarity. Once a leader has isolated what they can control, they need a code for how to execute. This grid maps the 4 cardinal virtues onto a modern leadership role. Wisdom is the discipline of looking at raw data and actual numbers, refusing to buy into a comfortable, ego-driven narrative. Courage is the willingness to act on what wisdom reveals. It is the grit required to make obvious but difficult moves, like letting a high performer go because they are toxic to the team's values. Justice is the practice of treating people as people. It means sharing credit, taking ownership of failures, and remembering that what hurts the team ultimately hurts the leader. Temperance is the capacity to hold yourself in check when you have the power to do anything. It is a guardrail against the ego, status, and greed that tend to grow louder as a leader's authority increases. These virtues act as the organization's behavioral code. They provide a structural defense against rot and ensure the leader's presence raises the bar in every room. Maintaining this system under pressure requires daily maintenance through specific mental exercises. Every morning, leaders practice premeditatio malorum, the mental rehearsal of potential failures. By picturing a flopped launch or a lost client early, they ensure they aren't ambushed when things actually go wrong. They use the view from above to gain perspective, zooming out until today's massive departmental drama is seen for what it is, a minor event that will be forgotten by next year. To prevent impulsive reactions, they use the 24-letter pause. By forcing a few seconds of silence before speaking, they allow the first wave of emotional energy to pass. These tools are not meant to be heroic. They simply engineer a tiny gap between a stimulus and your response, which is where every good leadership decision lives. Character is built almost entirely out of small, repeated decisions made when nothing important seems to be happening. Cutting small corners or telling small lies to avoid awkwardness degrades the system. When a high-stakes crisis eventually arrives, the muscle memory for the harder, fairer path won't be there. This compounding curve shows the alternative. Running the Stoic filter on daily annoyances builds the strength needed for massive decisions. Over time, the right choice becomes the obvious choice because the groundwork has been done for years. The ultimate output is a leader who commands a room through quiet clarity and disciplined consistency. Their presence raises the standard because their actions match the signals they send. Marcus Aurelius never wrote his reminders for an audience. He had no intention of building a published legacy. He was focused entirely on doing the work of that specific day, staying grounded despite the plague and the war surrounding him. Stoicism remains relevant because it focuses on the quiet, unfashionable work of self-control. By doing that work today, you become the kind of leader people will still want to follow centuries later.